Hello and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. Today we are covering and finishing, our history of the Eliksni series. Specifically, we're going to be covering Beyond Light, hopefully all the way up to present day in game. Our last episode, we left off with talking a little bit about Aramis and where she came from, and her kind of realigning herself with Varix and a few House of Devils and House of Wolves members to create Reese Reborn. And we ended that with the arrival of the pyramid ship on Europa and her entering it to receive her gift.
Yeah, the gift of darkness.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give a quick apology beforehand. I'm in a new space. I finally got my basement remodeled, and I'm in the new office, but it's super echoey because it's super empty. So if my audio sounds rough, blame Myth. Tell him he didn't edit it right.
Yep,
So yeah,
yep, all on me. I will follow that up by saying that I am still in the stages of recovering from my illness from last week. I feel much better than I sound, but either if things get a little nasally, that is why. So apologies for that.
But yeah, Aramis darkness, full darkness. That was something that we talked about last time too at the very end. Like, if she had not made that choice, what would have happened to House Salvation? Like, if she hadn't just fully given in to accept darkness. But unfortunately, she did, and yeah, darkness connected to Witness is kind of bad.
Kind of bad, just a little,
just a little. But only when it's connected to the Witness. Like I think that's a distinction, and I think we talked about this back in our Light and Dark saga. Like, darkness by itself is just a tool. It's just like the light. It's its equal and opposite. But when it's when it's being fed to you and wielded by the Witness himself, like now it's bad.
Yeah. When it is gifted to you as a means of controlling you, bad news.
Bad news.
And that is precisely what happens with Aramis. She receives the gift of darkness slivers that grant her and the generals that she assigns power to control stasis.
And we got something similar in the collector's edition, didn't we? Was that the physical?
Yep.
That was the physical
exactly
thing we
what
got.
That is.
Yeah.
And these these slivers kind of act as our ghosts in a way, where they allow for the dark power to channel through the sliver and be controlled by the wielder. And this is the very first instance of stasis being used is by Aramis and her House Salvation, as she calls it.
And again, to touch a little bit on stasis, like we always think of it as, like, a lot of people think of it as like, oh, it's freezy stuff, but it's more like entropy manipulation.
Yeah.
Than anything. Like the removal of entropy, like the removal of the effects of entropy from time, right? Like that's kind of the
things become more ordered in that localized area of the universe instead of more chaotic. And it's represented by ice, because that's an easy visual representation for us, the player, to go, oh, freeze makes things stop, makes things slow. Makes sense to us thematically. But yeah, so this is the event that kicks off the Beyond Light expansion. Is Aramis is gifted these slivers, learns how to wield stasis, gives the slivers that she has to her various generals, teaches them how to use it. And again, I think it would have been one thing if she had discovered how to use stasis and had decided we are going to use this power to better protect ourselves or to build up this Reese Reborn city that we're already in the process of making, like truly stand on somewhat equal footing for the first time with the other races in the soul system, in particular humanity and their guardians. But unfortunately, Aramis gets a little power hungry.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
I should say, maybe power drunk is a better term.
Oh, yeah. I like the second one there.
Yeah, she realizes, oh, I have this great and powerful ability now that makes me, a threat on the same level as the Guardians and their precious traveler. And rather than try and use this power to build up her people, although she does claim to be doing so, really her motivation is revenge. She wants to enact revenge on the traveler and teach it a lesson by destroying its little soldiers of light. And she unfortunately is willing to use her house salvation as the tools of war to do so, and intends to start using this stasis ability more broadly amongst the general dregs and vandals and other captains and such, as a means to turn them into soldiers for her cause.
Her own little personal army.
Exactly.
And we talked a lot about that wrathfulness, right? Like she really is driven by this hatred. Like when we looked at different persons of interest throughout the Eliksni, I'd say more recent history, she's definitely one of those ones that is against going backwards. She's like, no, that thing needs to die. That thing abandoned us. No, we can't have any part of the traveler or anything of it.
Yeah, it's this weird mental state where she's against going backwards culturally. She's against saying like we're going to return to a life under the traveler. Yet all of her decisions are still ruled by her past.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this weird, she still is looking backwards, even if she doesn't want her people to.
Yeah.
And Aramis is aware, as we saw in Season of the Plunder, that she's hypocritical about her approach to things. But this is kind of where we can first see some of that starting to form. And Varix, who up until this point has been acting as her scribe of House Salvation and has been trying to reassume the true role of House of Judgment on Reese Reborn, sees Aramis turning their people into soldiers of the power provided to her by the one that caused the whirlwind, caused their collapse. And he can't have it. So that's the breaking moment.
I was going to say that to him. I feel like that's a giant like F you to the entire Eliksni people. Like,
oh yeah,
that's cool, fine and dandy that you don't like the traveler and you want to be rid of it, but to then accept the one thing that like destroyed Reese in the first place as your salvation.
Yeah. No, Varix very much, I think, feels betrayed by this, because not only are you accepting help from the thing that caused the whirlwind, but the whole promise that Aramis came to him was rebuilding, Reese reborn, and she would need a scribe to keep them in line, and all these all of this grand things that Varix had wanted someone to step forward and start building something new. And she was doing that, and to kind of find that her motivation for doing that all along was just so she would have more bodies to throw at the traveler.
I was fixing to say, is she just used, like, I mean, clearly she was just using Varix just like using
Yeah.
his own ideas to like feed him and be like, yeah, come join. Yeah, we need a scribe. We need to rebuild. Yeah, get more people. Come on, let's go. And she's just as backstabby as ever. And like,
Well, and
yeah,
I think in a weird, twisted way, she still thought that she was doing that. She still
yeah,
thought they were rebuilding. Just
yep.
her version of rebuilding means on the bones of the traveler, not
uh, rebuilding a little more aggressively, I guess, would be the
right. Yeah. So Varix is not having any of what Aramis is selling, and he ends up betraying her by stealing a darkness sliver and escaping away to an outpost to call the Guardian and let them know that there's a threat on Europa and that he needs their assistance in dealing with it. Aramis, of course, finds out that Varix has made this unsanctioned phone call, essentially, and directs her forces to chase Varix down and execute him. Like she sees him at, this is treason. He's
yeah.
once again proving himself to be a traitor to their people, and as far as she's concerned.
Oh man, I never thought of it like that because they always refer to him as like Varix the traitor, Varix
Yeah.
the garbage man. Like, oh my god, this is definitely like her seeing that as the second betrayal.
Yeah, it's from Aramis's point of view, it's very much a like, I took a chance on you. I thought that you could see the bigger picture and the better good, and now you're just crawling back to the light bearers of our great enemy in her eyes. And Varix is in bad shape. He's pinned down with lots of enemy forces. When we roll in, the player guardian, and end up saving his hide. And he, lets us know about what's going on. Our guardian investigates and sees, which is with a cutscene in game, sees Aramis using the stasis power and kind of like trying to rile up some of her people into, yay, stasis. This is the power we will take our lives back with.
That's the scene where she blows up a servitor.
Yes.
And it like that's a big deal. Like these servitors are everything to the Eliksni. They're and we've talked about this before. They're built in the image of the Great Machine. They're ether harvesters, so they can produce more ether for the Eliksni. And she literally just fills it full of stasis and shatters it, like in front of the entire crowd of all these dregs and vandals and stuff. And it's just like, no more. And it's like, oh my god, okay, this is serious. This is real. Like, okay.
So we end up having to flee that confrontation just because, overwhelming force, I guess is the implication. Aramis and all of her generals in one place, they can all wield stasis, plus a bunch of rank and file soldiers. Like the Guardian doesn't want to deal with that.
Turns out freezy bullshit kind of sucks.
And this is pre-nerf stasis too, so
right,
that shit
like
was real.
This is launch stasis, where even Bungie was like, "Yeah, we kind of shipped that a little hot.
Yeah,
sorry about that."
But so we escape and are now working with Varix to try and figure out, okay, what's the best way to deal with this. And under Varix's instruction, we start by essentially dismantling her empire around her. We're not attacking Aramis directly, not at first. It's more weaken this, system that she's built up so that there's no longer a threat on a, invasion level. And then we'll deal with her when her resources are depleted. And we start that with Phylax, who is described as Aramis's strongest warrior and military general.
This was the one that was in prison with her, right? That was the one that was like not her cellmate, but he was like the next cell over, and they were like trading stories back and forth.
Yes, yeah, and Phylax is when we meet them in the Empire Hunt. for the warrior, is very, very confident in themselves.
Oh yeah.
To a fault, as we find. But they are very much, the bravado of like, come challenge me, guardian, prove yourself worthy of fighting me.
Very much that warrior, like gladiator, like come get some
Yeah.
style.
Yeah. And spoilers, we do, and we kick his ass
On a weekly basis, or I guess a
on a weekly
tri-weekly
basis.
basis.
Yeah. But so we defeat Phylax, and we take back the sliver of darkness that Phylax had, that allowed them control over stasis. Next, we target Paraxis, who is the head scientist of House Salvation. Paraxis is actually the one that created all of the technology that allows House Salvation to control stasis via the darkness slivers, which I thought was an interesting little point.
Like he designed their like darkness splicer gauntlet things.
Yep.
Okay.
Anytime that you are fighting an Eliksni that has access to stasis, so like some of the mini bosses in like the Glassway Strike.
Oh yeah.
Or so I think there are some mini bosses even in the Empire hunts that they are large captains that will use stasis against you. If you pay attention, they have kind of a dark version of a splicer gauntlet attached to one of their arms, with one of these slivers of darkness in it. And all of these devices were created by Paraxis. And so it is a very important person to take out of the picture, because if we remove Paraxis, we remove their ability to really innovate on this technology, or hopefully cease development altogether, but at the very least prevent them from making stronger versions of it. And so again, we do. We do the Empire Hunt mission to deal with Paraxis the Technocrat.
Oh, was that the one with the what is it? The little like immunity things that he would put over himself?
Yep, and you had to shoot the floating.
Yeah.
Yep. So we have at this point effectively cut off the head of the military for Aramis's House Salvation and removed their lead for R&D.
That's like the two, like that's, now granted, at this point in time in history, the Guardians got pretty good at dismantling shit. Like, especially Eliksni houses. We're really, really good at it. But that's how you hit them, right? Like, hit their military, hit their research and development. That's now all you got to do is cut off their supplies, and they're done. Like that's how you win.
Yeah, and Aramis recognizes that she is not in a good spot. So not only is she really upset that, again, a light bearer is dismantling this new house that she has made, but she understands that she is not in a advantageous position with these two council members being gone. And so she actually reaches out to the Cosmodrome, to any surviving House of Devils members that are still alive in the Cosmodrome, requesting that they provide weapons and supplies. And Aramis was of the House of Devils prior to her incarceration in the Prison of Elders. And House of Devils was, the very technologically advanced house. They were the house based in the Cosmodrome. The Devil Splicers were the ones that were messing with Siva and whatnot.
The military might at the Battle of Twilight Gap.
Twilight Gap. Yep. So House of Devils is a very hardy house. They're not nearly what they used to be, but there are some of them out there still, and they've been hoarding some supplies. And so when Aramis, the closest thing to a Kell they've had in years, makes a request for supplies and assistance, they are very interested in delivering.
Oh, sure.
And they start to, stockpile and get ready a ship to take all of this over to Aramis, and the Vanguard intercepts this request, and they direct the Guardian to stop that delivery at all costs.
Like I said,
which they do.
Shut off. That's number 3. Shut off their supplies.
Yep.
And now like that's literally how you win a war. You hit their military, you hit their R&D, their science department, so that way they can't advance any further. Then you cut off their supply. I mean, any one of those orders, like if you cut off their supply chain first, that kind of like slows their R&D research stuff to kind of a drip, and then you can kind of starve them out of that, and then you hit them with the military. Like those three is how you win a war.
Yeah. And the Guardian is well on their way.
Yeah.
So Aramis now understands that, well, crap, I have no supplies, no leaders in my military, no leaders in my R&D. And so now she starts enacting some more panic plans. The first one being telling Atrax, the last surviving member of her council at this point, to infiltrate the Deep Stone Crypt and prepare the body, quote unquote.
Ooh,
so
mysterious.
So Atrax now kind of leaves the narrative, at least for a little while, off doing this super secret mission in the Deep Stone Crypt. And Aramis decides to activate the Vex gate portal within the Braytech facility on Europa in an attempt to use this Vex incursion as a means of defeating or at least distracting the Guardian from being able to deal with House Salvation. Her thought being,
that's pretty damn good distraction.
Yeah, her thought being, I'm going to activate this portal. We're going to have the Vex flood into Europa, and the Guardian is going to have to deal with them before they can even get to us. Now, this is quite the Hail Mary. The Vex are not allies of Aramis. The Vex are uncaring about who's in front of them. Just if it's not Vex, they're going to shoot it.
Yep.
So this is a big gamble on her part, because not only is she, hopefully distracting the Guardians, but she is very much also putting all of the Eliksni at risk. Because if the Vex decide to not be a distraction in the areas she wants them to be, or if any Eliksni happen to wander too close to this facility, they're going to be gunned down.
Yeah, Vex bad, yo.
Vex bad. Thankfully, Elsie, who is knowledgeable about this gateway and seeing Aramis's movements in the area, kind of has an understanding of what she might be doing. Tells us, the Guardian, about it, and thus we have the Glassway Strike, which is us infiltrating this facility shortly after and destroying the submind that is controlling that particular, leading the charge on that particular group of X, as well as shutting the portal altogether to prevent them from turning into a big issue.
I love when Bungie does stuff like this, where they include a strike or something like that into the story and really feed the gameplay loop of the game of like, hey, go run strikes, go do this, go do that, go run a story, go do that. Like when it's part of it, it really helps, or it really feels like it's part of the game. It's not just like some task you go do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Aramis's gamble of using something as dangerous as the Vex, which are mutually dangerous to both Guardians and the civilians, the Eliksni there, leads Varix to finally kind of denounce Aramis for good and say that she has done an irredeemable action in this, because no longer is it just about no longer could she claim to just be trying to protect Eliksni lives, because she very readily put the lives of her house in danger
I mean,
by even
all of Reese
thinking about
Reborn,
this.
like the
Yes.
entire Eliksni people at this point, like she's ready to throw away lives at this point.
Yeah, and so that leads Varix to just denounce her completely, say that she is no longer, she's irredeemable, and decides that, okay, I'm gonna, instead of trying to just stop Aramis and hope, that we can find another way, I'm going to actively start extracting civilians. I'm going to actively start giving people the option to, run away, to leave Reese Reborn, because it is not safe at this point. And so we have a mission here where Varix makes a request to the Guardian saying that, he has filled up a multiple skiffs with different, and I think maybe a catch, but definitely skiffs at least, of civilians that are trying to leave, and asks our help in freeing or kind of securing the avenue for them to escape, which is where this is the mission where there's the ship being held by the like tractor beams. You have to go around to the 3 different areas on the map.
Shut off the tractor beam. A captain, Stasis captain shows up and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And you're like, "Nothing. Pop, pop, pop. You're dead." Run to the next one. Yeah.
Yes, that one. Yeah.
Very, very 90s like action hero movie. Like, nothing. Pop, pop, pop. Bye. Run away.
You didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So after allowing for the exfiltration of these civilians and having, kind of shut down all her other avenues of combating us, the Guardian then fights their way through a now mostly empty Reese Reborn to find Aramis in her own home, and takes the battle to her and ends up winning, with the result being Aramis being entombed in stasis.
And that's that last mission too. Like that was, there's a cutscene. There's obviously there's several cutscenes, but there's 2 cutscenes in particular that I really liked during that last part of the, because that's basically like the end of the Beyond Light campaign. Is that mission? There is more stuff. Don't worry, we have more to cover. But those two cutscenes is what I want to focus on. The one where the Guardian, because up until this point, the Guardian's been carrying around this little sliver, right? That's how the Guardian's been accessing stasis this whole time. And so he meets, he or she, they, you, VIP 2014, shows up at Aramis's front, like in her living room, essentially. And she's like, "I'm gonna start to freeze you," and you're like, "I'm gonna break out." And so you pull out the sliver, and she snatches it out of your hand and crushes it, and is like, "What are you gonna do now?" And you're like, shit. What am I gonna do now? And then like Elsie's voice plays in the back of your mind of like, "Hey, you've had the power of darkness in you all." It's a very Disney movie, right? Like, "You've had the power within you this whole time." But it was a very important moment to note that the Guardian is one of the only, if not the only thing in this entire universe that can wield darkness and light. And we do so in that scene. Like as Aramis is like freezing us from the ground up, we're like click, 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 and start breaking out of it. And she's like, "Interesting. Okay, this is going to be a fight then." And so we break out. We start using stasis sliver free, and then the fight continues. We take it out to her balcony and kill her. And she's kind of like recoiling from it. And as she's recoiling, she like looks towards the pyramid ship that's landed on Europa that's off in the distance, and she's like, like she's reaching for it, like, why did you forsake me? Like, this power was everything. And then she starts freezing herself. Like, I don't think she herself is freezing herself, but her body starts freezing and is fully encased in stasis. And that's that one part there. I've never truly understood why that happened. Like, I at first I thought, okay, well, we froze her, like we locked her up in stasis and that was it. But I'm starting to think more, it's like the witness looked at it and go, okay, well, you're clearly not going to do what I want you to do, so I'm going to use this power against you, and that's going to be your tomb. And you can just sit there and watch the end of the universe happen and know that I have full power and you're helpless and you're nothing. That's that second part there, that thought of like the witness being in full control at that final battle, or that final cutscene, I think is more accurate of what happened there.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think I do not believe we were the ones that had anything to do with her stasis imprisonment. I think that came from the sliver, which does make me wonder what would have happened if our guardian held on to their sliver, if the witness can enact direct control over those.
Because the slivers are literally chunks of like pyramid ships. Sorry,
Seemingly,
tetrahedron
yeah.
ships. So they have their inherent. Are they? Because like okay, but it's not like the big pyramid ship. It's the little mini ships that like
right,
buzz
ziggurats
around it. Yes. Those slivers are like part of those ziggurats. So are those like autonomous drones? Is that?
Yeah, it's hard to say
Because we never see like with a pyramid, it's like 1-to-1. Like Rourke is in the pyramid. Now, granted, there's he has all sorts of other shit in there. There's so much Scorn, and then this Scorn darkness hybrid thing, and all this other stuff. But the pyramid ship is primarily 1-to-1. Like you have a discipline, you have a disciple, and that is his pyramid ship. And then you have like all these little like ziggurats that are literally they're almost like little buzzing bees. And we saw a bunch of them during Season of Arrival, the season right before Beyond Light came out, and like we were actively engaging with them and shutting them down, but they never spat out like a new enemy or anything like that. Nothing ever came out of them. They just like they like materialized like tick, 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 and then we shut them down, and then that was it. Like they just dematerialized. So I'm curious if those like little ziggurats are like just autonomous drones.
Maybe so. It's hard to say exactly what the witness has direct control over and what just kind of is a part of the chain of command.
Sure.
But I choose to see Aramis's entombment as a punishment from the witness for her failure, essentially.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's a very clever way of delivering a punishment, I suppose, because you are enacting a like, you fucked up, now there's consequences, and at the same time you are protecting this asset in a way that you could go back and use them again if it makes sense to do so.
Right, because that's the key here, is like this is an entombment, not a killing. Not a like she was a lot. The whole time that she was frozen, and I know like obviously we just had Season of Plunder where she broke out and she was all that. So the whole time she was frozen in that stasis tomb, she was alive. Like I feel like she could see and hear everything. So every time that like you, the player guardian, went up there and like teabagged her a bunch, was like, haha, you're stuck in stasis. She's just like, God damn it, not again. This is the 5th time today, and it's not even 8 a.m. This is ridiculous. But yeah, she's fully. I feel like she's fully conscious in there, fully aware of her surroundings, and is just. It's literally like the witness wanted just her to like suffer through and be like, look, you didn't do what I want you to, so you get to watch the end of the universe and you get a front row seat, and there's nothing you can even do about it.
Yeah, they're not going to talk about it here, but there's some evidence to suggest to kind of back up this theory and also show just how fucked up the witness can be with his punishments. actually in this latest season that just came out, that we will maybe talk about next episode.
Hopefully, if we get there in time.
Yeah. So, Aramis is defeated, and the Guardian is now going about removing the remaining armaments to make sure that no one can use the ruins of House Salvation to, build up an army again. So the Guardian fights their way through the different sections of Reese Reborn, shutting down the weapons factories and the brig production factory as well. It's discovered through this exploration that a new leader has emerged to replace Aramis and reorganize the remaining members of House Salvation. That new leader is Cretus, also known as the Priestess.
Oh, like psychic, right?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what her abilities were. I think Priestess was more in the sense of devotion and like religious fervor.
I was thinking like Archon, right? Like the
not quite the same,
right? Like or like the next step down from an Archon. Because maybe I swear there was another priestess, but I might be remembering wrong.
Because there are Archon priests, like that's all one word. But she's referred to as I believe it's just the priestess. And I think it's more regarding the fact that she is fanatically obsessed with stasis, the darkness, and Aramis, and states multiple times through the missions where you're hunting her down that she believes Aramis is not dead, but sleeping and is learning in her sleep on how to better utilize stasis directly from the witness, and that she will return more powerful than ever, and that it is Cretus's destiny to break Aramis out. Is this like prophecy she has made for herself, I guess.
I was going to say that's pretty fanatical to be like, I'm my own prophecy. I'm the savior of my own people, and it's because I say so. Like that's pretty fanatical.
So, needless to say, Guardian not going to have that. We can't have House Salvation reforming around an even crazier leader. And so we shut her down real quick. And in the mission where you fight Cretus, the final stage is the same arena where you fought Aramis. And so if Aramis is alive and aware of everything that's happening while she's entombed, she gets to be frozen and then watch the Guardian chase the last member of her loyal
just
council.
Completely smoke the rest of her council. Just be like, oh shit. Now what? Yeah, that's my headcanon now. I feel like that's more than just my headcanon. Like I feel like that is what happened. Like, yeah, she's fully aware, fully conscious.
Safe to say.
Yeah.
And so now House Salvation is truly leaderless, and the remaining members scatter and split off to either join the House of Dusk or the up and coming House of Light.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy though to think that like, oh hey, stasis good. Oh shit, they all died. No, JK, light good. Yay, light.
Well, I feel like a lot of the rank and file Eliksni, a lot of the, citizens, are probably just going wherever they feel like they can live. You know, they're not.
You live where you can survive.
They don't care about yay stasis or yay light. They're just like, man, I want food tomorrow.
I just want food tomorrow. Yeah. I could definitely see that as being like the driving force of like, hey, you're going to provide ether and food? All right, sweet. I'm on your side. Oh, You died? All right, bye. Yeah, I like that.
So the Guardian learns of the plan that Aramis put into action prior to her defeat, and that is that she sent Atrax off to the Deep Stone Crypt.
Oh my god, I Oh, go ahead. I have a thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So Atrax is infiltrated the crypt, which has set off alarms that Elsie has picked up on and is directing us like we need to go investigate that because that's not good. And we get into the crypt and we discover that Atrax has successfully turned herself into the first Eliksni exo.
Boom. Mic drop. Bomb in the room. Like, yeah, that's bad.
That's pretty impressive. Like,
that's insanely impressive. Like, all this old stuff, like, we as the Guardians don't even know how exos work. And this single Eliksni was like, let's give it a shot. See what happens. And
right?
did it? And it worked in this, what, thousands years old facility? I mean, we're talking the Deep Stone Crypt, which is where exos are born, that was active during the pre-collapse, during the Golden Age. Clovis Bray ran this facility, and it's essentially been dormant ever since. Like ever since the collapse, maybe a little post-collapse, it's been dormant. So I mean, we're talking thousands of years, and this one Eliksni just walks in and figures it out in, like, I don't know, a week. Come on.
Not only did they figure out how to turn themselves into an exo, they had enough time to rebuild / revive Tannix.
Fucking Tannix. God damn it. That's literally the Eliksni, like, F you. Like,
yeah.
We've talked about this before. Vex is, for some Vex reason, they did this. Like, that's actual lore. That is an actual lore entry that says, for some Vex reason. We, being Myth and I, have decided that anything Hive related is fucking Toland. And now anything Eliksni is just fucking Tannix. That's because this is like the 10th time he's been revived. Like, who is in charge of keeping tabs on this thing? Like, what the hell?
It's getting a little out of hand.
Little ridiculous.
Little ridiculous. Need to rename Tannix House of Cockroach.
Yeah. Yup. Oh, I like that. That is a good one. I do like that one.
So the Guardian and their raid team defeats Atrax along with the remaining House of Salvation forces.
It takes them about 14 hours to figure out how to defeat Atrax first.
Only if you're on day one.
That day one Atrax was so hard. Like, that was a genuine, like, what are we doing here? Like, that was a hard fight. Like, our raid team went in blind. Like, we weren't trying to, like, watch any videos or anything. So we're trying to, like, learn this and figure it out. And there's just, like, there's so many moving parts to this fight that are just it was exhausting. By the time we got to the end of it, and we realized, like, okay, the whole time we were missing, like, one key thing of the entire fight, and that was shooting her into space. Like, we were trying to figure this out, and we couldn't figure it out. It was just, that was a rough one. That was my thing. Sorry, that was my whole, like, I've got a thing about. Yeah, that's okay. Moment over.
Okay, well, we do eventually beat Atrax and the remaining House Salvation forces that accompanied her here. And we have our showdown with Tannix, fighting Tannix while the entire orbital station is plummeting to the planet's surface, determined to blow itself up with nuclear cores, which we put a stop to. We survive the collision of the space station hitting Europa, and so did Tannix by way of replacing their bottom half with a shank.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, in the amount of time it took this station because, like, the whole time you're fighting, I put that in quotation marks, him, like, you're not really fighting him. You're fighting all these forces that are just pouring out. You're just trying to, like, slow him down and, like, like what you're saying, get these nukes in. You're essentially ejecting these nukes into space and just like blow up over there, not in here. And the
Yeah.
whole time, this thing is like this because it's the God, I can't remember the name of the warp. Morning Star. It's the Morning Star orbital platform system that you're in at this point that is crashing back down into Europa, and the whole time you're just like, oh God, nuke! Oh, get it out of here! Oh, another nuke! Oh God, get it out of here! Oh God, more nukes! Get them out of here! And then the 15, not even 15 seconds, the 10 seconds that it takes for you to recover from smashing into the ground and walking to the next room, Tanix has replaced his entire lower half with a giant shank. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, was that his plan all along? Did he literally like have a backup and was just like, oh God, I got gut shot. Oh, severed. Bloop, bloop. Like how? Who taught him this? What level of tech? We took out their R&D like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Who was able to do this? Okay, I'm getting ranty and I apologize. That's just.
But yes,
Yeah.
it's a bit odd of a fight, not gonna lie.
It's so weird because now he has nukes. Like,
yes.
where is he? He's literally pooping nukes out, and you're just like, oh, I guess I have to dispose of this. What is such a weird fight when you sit back and look at it from the outside and go,
Oh,
what
it
the
is.
fuck were we doing?
It really, really is. But we still fight it and we still win.
We still win.
We put Tanix down for the last time?
No. You know he's gonna get revived. Like that's name 3 Destiny bosses. Tanix. All right, that's on me. I walked right into that. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's gonna be name five Destiny bosses, and you're gonna be like Tanix. You're like, God damn it, not again. Yeah.
But so that the defeat of Tanix and the securing of the Deepstone Crypt ends our dealings with the Eliksni during the Beyond Light expansion. Up until the season of Splicer. And something that technically is lore we got during Season of the Splicer, but the events described, I think, happen somewhere between Beyond Light and Splicer. That we're going to talk about next is with a character that was very recently introduced to the story, and that is Ido, the daughter of Mithrax.
I love Ido. She's so innocent. She's so hopeful and innocent, and I'm just like, I want to just be like, look, kid, the world's kind of in a shit state right now. Like, darkness is coming. We don't know if we're gonna win. I mean, we're pretty cocky, so we're pretty sure we're gonna win. But
yeah,
like, she's so hopeful, and I want to bottle her hope and sell it for merchandising.
Don't give Spider ideas.
Yes.
Oh, but so we are going to get into the first of many readings tonight, in kind of the second section of our episode with the Season of Splicer. And so we're going to read about Ido and how she found herself becoming the House of Light scribe, especially when her father is a splicer. And we see kind of this story from the Illuminous Hunter set, which was the armor set for not Age of Triumph. Maybe was it Age of Triumph?
I think so. Yeah, that's the one with the maybe Solstice. No. The sparkly stuff is Triumph. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So regardless, it's called the Illuminous set bracket Majestic. And so we're going to start with the Hunter gloves. And these are different for each individual class, which is why I'm specifying the class here. But they go like this. Ido recoiled as the spindly claws of the splicer gauntlet snapped and jerked. When her father wore it, the damned thing always moved smooth, as if it were his own fingers, but attached to the end of her arm, it seemed possessed by a life of all its own. Mistrak's considerable patience was beginning to wear thin. No, Ido, no. Splicing is not about thinking. It is about feeling. Feel the energy flow from the ground, through your legs, up your torso, and out through your arm. His arms wove circular patterns in the air as if gently wafting smoke upwards. The movements of the gauntlet is the continuation of a motion that begins deep in the heart of the planet where it keeps its light. Ido sighed. Mithrax was intent on passing the way of the splicer to his daughter, but after 3 days of attempts without the barest sign of success, they were both becoming frustrated. Ido was eager to learn, to live up to her father's skills, but the harder she tried, the more violently the gauntlet seemed to reject her. Ido took several deep breaths and extended her mind's eye through the ground, deep into the well of light at the center of the planet. She followed the light through the firmament, up through her body and into the gauntlet, and it whirred smoothly to life. Yes, just so, Mithrax encouraged her. Now feel the light extend from the gauntlet into the shank. Feel its code lying dormant. It is sleeping, waiting for you to wake it. Ido extended the gauntlet. A surge of energy shot forth from its claws, sending crackles of electricity ripping across the shank's surface. In her shock, Ido jerked the gauntlet away, which severed the connection. The electricity sparked for an instant longer, and then went still. A small plume of smoke issued forth from deep within the shank. Ido didn't need Mithrax to tell her that she had just fried the main circuit net. Mithrax took a moment to compose himself before speaking. This is a good lesson. When one focuses on the metal, the form of the machine, and not... Mithrax Kell, father, Ido interrupted. This is not... I don't want... She fought her emotions for control of her voice. Mithrax waited for his daughter to compose herself. I am not a splicer, she finally said. I am certain of it. I know this is a disappointment to you, but the gauntlet has spoken. She pulled the spiteful mechanism off her arm and held it out. Mithrax took it reluctantly. I am sorry that you will not follow me in the way of the splicer. However, it is a far greater thing to know what you are and what you are not. He lifted all 4 of his palms toward her as a sign of respect. Self-knowledge is the rarest skill of all, and not commonly found in one so young. And Ido was filled with relief and gratitude for her lesson. That's the end of that lore card.
Yeah, I'm like a second away from crying. Like, oh God. Okay.
Well,
okay.
We're going all sorts of places tonight, so...
God damn it. I'm literally, like, I'm wiping tears away right now. Like, this is, oh, fuck, I'm gonna cry. Okay. This is, oh God, it's so good. It's so, like, oh God, okay. I was, okay. Whew, breathe. Compose yourself, Guardian. Okay. Yeah. This is such I love this little scene here. Like, I love the idea of like Ido really trying, like truly trying to be like, okay, my not just my father, because Now, does she know she was found? Like, does she know that she's essentially like adopted? Like, she's just
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, she does.
So, but she very much like. I mean, this Mithrax is all she's known her whole life. Like that is her father.
Yeah,
And
because
it's
she was discovered as a hatchling,
right.
so she was
Yep.
very, very young.
Yep. So to see that father figure and more than just a father figure, right? Like the Kell of House Light, like that's everything. That's the provider, the guidance, the everything in your house comes from, and to like want to please him and to show that yes, I can follow in your footsteps. This I can be a splicer, and to try so hard, and then for it to fail for the third day of trying this and just get one little blip, and her just be like, I am not a splicer, like to just state that as a fact, and for her father to accept that and go, okay, well, that's that's a real possibility, but you stating that is the greater what would you call it, the greater win out of this entire situation. Like having that self knowledge of knowing that you're not a splicer, that you are not capable of doing this, means an even greater pride or whatever for the House of Light, because now there are other things that an Eliksni can do to help provide for their house. Like, God, I'm gonna cry. No, okay, all right.
But so this is her learning that she is not going to be following the path of the splicer. That there is something else out there, and she knows herself well enough to know what she is not, and it is not a splicer. So then the question becomes, what does she end up doing?
Right.
And she gets her first flash of inspiration in the lore card of the Illuminous Mask, the Hunter Helmet. And it goes like this. Ido crept on all sixes through the massive halls of the dreaming city. She was following an indistinct murmur, both terrifying and compelling. 1,000 voices, all muttering to themselves. How did she get here? She peered around the corner of a massive archway. Beyond, she found a circular chamber with an elaborate sigil carved into a stone floor. 3 awoken figures stood at the precise intervals along the carved seal. The chamber was without a ceiling. The void of space yawned overhead. Spiraling galaxies seemed to fill the room, and Ido realized that she wasn't breathing. Was she dead? And suddenly, Ido stood in the center of the sigil. She turned in a circle, trying to identify the looming figures, but their faces were vast and unknown, like the void above. She felt the weight of their focus, as if she were falling in all directions at once. She looked down and discovered with horror that the ground was receding. She was floating upwards into the vacuum of space, and the figures paid her no attention as she drifted away. As the chamber fell away beneath her, the murmur condensed and merged until it unified into a single, panicked wail. And Ido awoke to find the screaming coming from her own mouth. Mithrax crouched next to her pallet, wringing his lower hands in concern. Be calm, young one, be calm. You are Ido. You are the one true now. You are safe. He gave her a sip of ether from his own meager reserve and waited patiently until she quieted. Tell me of your journey, he prompted. She explained her experience as best a hatchling could. Mithrax nodded gravely. The Techians, advisors to our hosts. They are like scribes for the awoken, he said, thinking quietly. I know you are frightened, but I am confident this is a blessing. All great things appear first as monsters. There may be a day when you are seen as a monster, and your blessing is frightening to those who cannot understand it. When that time comes, remember this moment." Ido nodded, though she didn't fully understand. How could she be a monster? "I, too, am sometimes frightened by the Techians," Misrax confided. "But we must look beyond our fear to find the light. This is courage. Can you show courage?" Ido nodded again. "You can, I'm sure of it," Misrax said proudly. "The light provides." "The light provides," Ido murmured as she lay back down to a peaceful slumber. That's the end of that lore card.
So, I mean, obviously some type of Eliksni ritual to, like, kind of help Ido find her place among the people.
Well, I think it's saying that she was asleep, that this was a dream that was given to her,
okay.
a vision that was given to her.
I was thinking of it as like a ritual or something like that.
Yeah, well, I think she was seeing the Techians in her dream performing some kind of ritual.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's pointing her in the direction of, like, the Techians are scary, but they also, even though we find them scary, they are considered sacred amongst their own people.
Yeah.
And you may one day appear to be a monster to someone else that doesn't understand you, and kind of gives it that that lesson of the don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing.
Yep.
But it's also kind of giving her that hint of the Techians. The Techians are the scribes of the Awoken, and kind of planting that seed of there's purpose in that kind of role.
Yeah. I like that thought. I like that thought of, like, hey, that's a bummer that you're not a splicer. Like,
yeah.
But there are other roles. Like, there's I mean, in any type of society. Okay, you're not the guy guarding the front door. All right, but can you farm? Okay, well, guess what? Now you provide food for all your people.
Yeah.
You win. Like, yeah. So that's I like that idea that even Mithrax is willing to look past his own pride, because I feel like that's a lot of what Mithrax has here, like especially in the first one where he's trying to get her to be a splicer. Like, he wants his offspring to be like, "Follow in my footsteps, little one," and for him to be able to kind of sit back and accept, okay, not a splicer, got it. What else can we do? What else? Let's see what else you can do, and then to have this dream and yeah, I like that. I like it.
And so having this dream and this revelation lead Ido to try and find out more information about what are scribes and what do they do and why are they important. And this brings her to none other than Varix, the former scribe of salvation and judgment. And we see her conversation, or a piece of her conversation with him, in the Illuminous Cloak. And that one goes like this. "And all of the houses respected their decisions?" Ido asked, dubious. "Yes," Varix replied. "It was so agreed by all of Reese." The old scribe traced his fingers along the datapad, deciphering notes that hadn't been accessed in decades. "But didn't all the other houses fight amongst each other, disputing their decisions?" Ido leaned forward, fascinated by the idea that one house accruing so much political sway without resorting to violence. "To dispute the house of judgment was to dispute all Eliksni houses," Varix explained. "It was the voice of the Eliksni united." Ido puzzled over this. The idea of Mediation was not new to her. Mithrax had often solved problems between house members without violence, but the idea of organizing a whole society using that method was novel. So it was the ruling house, Ido concluded. Varix clicked his mandibles in annoyance. No, the house of judgment was both above and below all other houses. It was both Kel and Dreg. Its authority came from humility. Ido had only ever known of scribes as political animals, power brokers and go-betweens, like Varix. But the idea of scribes as neutral parties, dedicated to peace and knowledge, was enticing. This is why the old scribes pursued knowledge relentlessly. They sought it from uncommon sources, Varix continued. Their knowledge was overwhelming and unyielding. So when a scribe of House Judgment decided, all Eliksni respected it. They knew that nothing was left unconsidered. Ido nodded raptly. For the first time, she imagined peace, not just as an aspiration, but as a practice and a vocation. And the idea blossomed within her. That's the end of that card.
I do love this talk that she has with him. Like I so House Judgment, like on Reese, was law of the land. Like but it was law of the land because they were that knowledgeable in whatever field that they were talking about. I like to think of them as like I know this military analogy is probably like a lot of people aren't going to understand this, but this is what it clicks in my head as Chief Warrant Officer 5. So that's like the highest warrant officer that you can be. These are guys that have been in the military for they've been in their field for 20 plus years, and that's all they've done for that entire time, and they are literally subject matter experts on everything that has to do with that. So when a CW5 says something, nobody so in the hierarchy of the military, chief warrant officers and chief warrant officers are below lieutenants and officers. Lieutenants are officers anyway. But even officers will come to a chief warrant officer and be like, "Hey, I need help. How do I do X?" And then whatever the chief warrant officer says, that's all right, that's what we're doing. Full stop. There's no okay, well, what if we did it this way? I like your idea, but no. It's subject matter expert. And that's what I think of House Judgment. They are subject matter expert in everything Eliksni. They are, which is why I feel like there's only one to a house, because that was the whole thing. Is all of House Judgment was a single house, but they kind of had one guy stationed with each house, within each house as their subject matter expert. And then when shit went sideways, they were like, well, how do we solve this? They're like, well, let's go get the scribe. Let's go get House Judgment. Okay, come here, guy. What the hell? Make do. And House Judgment's like, this is this, and everyone's like, okay, and that's it. There's no fighting, there's no disputing it, there's no anything. And so it's peace as a vocation. I really like that. I like that saying, peace as a vocation. But it's not really truly peace, right? It's mediation as a vocation, like a true knowledgeable person. And through mediation, through a true neutral party, peace can be attained. Ido, you're so hopeful, and I love it.
So she has this vision of the Techians, the scribes of the Awoken. She has this discussion with Varix about what the scribes of the Eliksni were, or the House of Judgment for the Eliksni was. And she makes a decision. And we see that in the luminous strides, the boots, and it goes like this. They may reject you, Mithrax warned. The Techians are not welcoming to outsiders. I understand, the scribe replied. But even if they refuse me instruction, I might still get access to their data archives. That alone would be a lifetime worth of knowledge. You do not have a lifetime to study, Mithrax warned. You must rejoin the Eliksni soon. They will need guidance. We must reach them while there are still some left to help. I will learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. The scribe turned her palms downward in a show of fealty. Mithrax paused, wishing to prolong the moment. I recall a time, he reminisced, when you were just a hatchling, and the Techians visited you in the night, and you woke screaming. I recall it well, the scribe replied. To tell the truth, they still frighten me. But we must look beyond our fear to find the light. And in that moment, Mithrax saw her anew. The scribe shone with a brightness he had never seen before, a mixture of joyful optimism and grim determination. She had finally found her path to the light. I am proud to have such a brave scribe as daughter, he said in a break of formality. Thank you, Idle replied, surprised by his tone. I am lucky to have such a wise Kell for my father. And that's the end of that lore card.
I can't talk because I'm crying right now. God damn it. Okay. This is gonna be tonight, isn't it? This is the emotional episode. God, dude, I'm never gonna be able to fight in Eliksni ever again. I'm never gonna. I already can't shoot screams. Like, I can't. God, dang it. Oh God. I don't have any. This is just a beautiful scene. This is a flat out beautiful scene, and that's it. Full stop. Next scene. I can't do this again, man.
No, it is. It's nice to see from Mithrax's point of view. He of course wants his daughter to follow in his footsteps and be a great splicer, but for him to recognize that is not her path and offer the level of support that he does in her, her making a decision about what her path is.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry again.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
It's good. It's good. It's good. How's light good?
So with this little,
I want to be in Eliksni now.
Well, you never know. One day,
someday,
maybe. Eliksni Guardians.
Yep. May the light provide. Yep. I ain't playing a darkness subclass, but well, maybe with Aramis I could. No. She's bad. Aramis bad. Light good.
So with this venture of Ido finding herself becoming truly the scribe of the House of Light, we enter into the events of Season of the Splicer, and this starts out as a Vex issue. The city is beset by the Vex, and the Vex have entrapped it in this simulation of an endless night where the city does not see daylight.
Which I not to like completely just kind of like break up your train of thought and everything, but I actually really like that thought there, because that's the same thing that Osiris saw when he was going through his different realities during Curse of Osiris when he was using his reflections to go through the infinite forest. He saw like the light of the sun. Now I know this is just a simulation that the Vex are doing to cause this eternal night, but the fact that that was like Osiris saw that, like it, I think that's a very important detail there.
Yeah, it has a lot of parallels to, the future Osiris saw in the Curse of Osiris expansion,
Yeah,
which was just the
the
sun
end of
had
the
burnt
universe.
out
Yeah,
and there was nothing left but Vex.
that was it. End of the
Uh,
universe. Vex wins.
so, needless to say, an endless night is not cool. Not only for like vitamin D, but also on a psychological standpoint, being in endless darkness is really rough.
Yeah.
There are lots of real life reports of people that live in areas that have very long night cycles during different times of the year. I believe like Alaska
Yep.
is one of those where they will have, depending on the time of year, they may have almost 24 hours of daylight or 24 hours of darkness. And it messes with you. It really
Absolutely, it
does.
does.
And so this is being used as a psychological warfare tactic against the city.
Which is that kind of odd from the point of view from the Vex to act on a psychological thing, or is that just another data point to them?
It's a good question. I on one hand, I feel like it's odd because we haven't seen them do that before. But on the other hand, it is a very apt military strategy. And if
Oh yeah.
their point is overcome everything, everything else that isn't Vex, like this is a very viable strategy to land on and go forward with.
Yeah. Okay.
So you could kind of argue either way. I think you could say they're doing it because they're being directed by Qoria in this case, who's a little bit more than a Vex, or maybe this is just what they've ended up as. Like this is the way we defeat this particular enemy.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
so because of this, Ikora, who has had her hidden watching Mithrax and the House of Light up until this point, just to know kind of who they are, if they pose a threat, if they're potential allies. She knows that Mithrax, by nature of being a splicer, has the ability to access the Vex network and sees that as the only or best route forward to try and solve this problem. And so she reaches out to Mithrax, to the House of Light, and makes an offer that at the time was unthinkable. And that offer was, you will be given a place under the Traveler in the city if you assist us in removing this endless night.
That's a that's a ballsy, like, I mean, oh man. Like obviously, like now we have the entire Eliksni Quarter, it's established and everything like that, but at that point in time there was no Eliksni Quarter. Like to have Eliksni and human living together, I mean, we're talking people that have lived in the last city their whole lives, possibly, and might remember the battle at Six Fronts, the battle of
Yeah.
Twilight Gap, and think we're gonna let our enemies live here with it. Like my husband died because of these guys. Like screw you, Ikora. That's a real possibility. And for Ikora to just think like, okay, this is the best course of action. That's bold. That's ballsy.
Say it is a gamble on both sides, but one that could lead to great things. This could be the beginning of a beautiful partnership, and both sides are willing to take the risk. And so Mithrax accepts the offer, and the Guardian is dispatched to assist them in leaving Europa with a final kind of group of refugees and transport them to the Botza district, the Eliksni Quarter within the city, so that they can set up shop and start their new life while while they work on this Vex network problem.
Now, the Botza district, that's like that's the old I say stomping grounds, but that's where the scourge
Yep.
that's where the whole scourge that's like the final stand of the scourge of the past raid. But that's like they God, that's kind of a dick move on Ikora too. Be like, hey, you remember this incursion that failed and we completely screwed you? Why don't you have this place to live? Nobody else is using it. That's kind of a dick move.
It's a little bit like, it's one of those, yeah, clearly it's the only area that's unoccupied in the city. But yeah, at the same time, it's like, really? Did we not have anywhere?
We didn't even clean up the brig. The brig is still sitting there.
The brig is still there. Like, the buildings are, bombed out and broken.
Like, that's fucked up, Ikora. What the hell? Who hurt you? Clearly an Eliksni hurt her. That's
yes,
and Vex.
Yes. But regardless, they're still excited about this opportunity. They're excited to be so close to the Great Machine. Like, this is the first time since entering the Soul System an Eliksni has been able to live in the presence of the Traveler. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal, especially for the House Light. And we see during their time here and trying to like get things set up and figure out what do we do, with our new neighbors now. Mithrax actually reaches out to Varix a number of times for counsel on how to deal with different situations or just to give updates as to how the house is doing. And these are these messages between the two are on the Lightkin class items, and each class item is a different message. So we're going to start with the Lightkin cloak, the hunter cloak. Since chronologically that's the first message between the two. And it goes like this. So this is a correspondence where it's like Mithrax, colon, Varix, colon. So it goes back and forth. But Mithrax starts. Light grace you. Varix. Varix is relieved to hear you, Mithrax. You are there, beneath the great machine? Yes. Without your assistance, we would never have survived the Vex attack. This is clear, and from this gratitude you now speak in human language during private correspondence. I follow custom, and do not wish my hosts to think I hide my words from them. How gracious. But Vex attacking you when House Salvation did? Curious, yes? I have not had much time to ponder it. How are the survivors? The hatchlings? Your daughter? They are all well. Ido is excited beyond words. She has dreamed of this day, but never believed it would come. Why did you not come with us? The great machine has no business with Varix. Besides, who would keep an eye on Aramis? I thought she always the hatchling. Nothing is forever. We know this. I must go, Varix. There is much to do here. Walk quietly in your own shadow, Mithrax Kell. That's the end of the first message.
I mean, who better to reach out to than Varix? Like, the one Eliksni that's had so much interactions with humans. Like, yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer there. I do like their little like back and forth there. Like, it, they they're both respectful, but almost kind of I don't want to say in a passive aggressive way, but maybe that's just me reading too deep into it. But it seems like a little passive aggressiveness going on
Maybe
there.
a little bit, yeah.
But again, like Varric's again, and I love that that like always a hatchling. Like that's like the arrogance that comes with being House Judgment. Like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. You shut the fuck up. Like, yeah.
Well,
That's
also, we have to remember that Mithrax was born during the Long Drift, and Varrix lived during the golden age of the original Reese. So there is quite a bit of an age difference.
I was going to say, Varrix is his elder. Like, that's it's an even more like kind of like, fuck you, Mithrax. Like, this subliminal like, haha, I'm better than you, Mithrax kill. Like, yeah. But yeah, and of course, like, you know, he's got to have some excuse to just be himself and be out on his own. And
yeah,
who's gonna watch Erebus? Oh well,
right.
yeah, you're right, whatever. Yeah, no. But yeah, I do like this little correspondence between the two of them.
Yeah. So this is kind of when they first got settled, you know, and he's telling them, yeah, things are great. We're finally here under the Great Machine. We never thought this would happen. And then the next correspondence is a little time has passed. And, you know, Mithrax is troubled now by his neighbors and is hoping for some guidance. And so in the second correspondence, this is in the Lightkin Mark, the Titan item, we see this conversation. Long days grace, Mithrax Kell. Light bless you, Varrix. Thank you for taking this time. You sound troubled. Confide. Varrix will listen. The humans they're not as accepting as I had hoped. They cannot see us as anything but the things of their nightmares. Are we not? I thought things would change. Kell you may be, but you have much to learn about being a Kell yet, Mithrax. Change does not come overnight. Not for Eliksni, not for humans. Change takes time, effort. Change hurts like first molt. I suppose nothing. Mithrax Kell is too eager to forget the wolves. Do you remember what it was like to kneel to the Queen of the Reef? I thought the humans would be different. Hope is hope. Reality is reality. You cannot splice all things to be as you wish. No shortcuts here. No excuses either. Not for humans, not for Eliksni. I miss your counsel. You should visit when things calm. Stand beneath the great machine as you did in the time gone. No, Varrix cannot. That is then, this is now. My river does not flow backwards. Enjoy your victories, Mithrax Kell. Do not let the pain of now overshadow the promise of tomorrow. We should all be so lucky. And that's the end of that one.
I like that one. Hope is hope. Reality is reality. You can't just splice, like, if something's not working for you, you can't just splice it out of whatever, splice it into whatever you want. Like, that's such a God. House Judgment really is like. I mean, I understand, like, there's a little bit of arrogance that's there on Varric's side, but at the same time, like, he kind of he kind of he kind of earned it, I
Yeah, I mean, it
guess.
comes
Like,
from experience.
yeah, like, it's and I don't know that Varric's actively flaunts that arrogance. Like, every once in a while, it seems like he does. Like that, like the very first line, the, like, you know many days or whatever, and they've been stuck in this eternal night, and I'm like, was that was that a passive aggressive fuck you? Like, was that like a haha, told you so? Like, life ain't so great as a traveler, is it? Yeah. Not all kittens and butterflies, is it? No. Yeah.
Ooh. So we have one final correspondence between these two, which is a little further into the season. And this is where, during some of the cutscenes here, after they have come into the city, there's discussions of, okay, how are supplies divvied up? And these discussions are had between Saint 14, Osiris, and Lakshmi, Lakshmi 2. And Lakshmi is very much the, I don't know if anti Eliksni. Like, she's pro city at the expense of the Eliksni if needed.
I feel like that's borderline anti Eliksni. Like, that's
I suppose, yeah.
short of just actively coming out and going, hey, fuck those guys, they can't live here. Like, that's like
Yeah,
short of doing that, which
that
she
is
came
what she's
pretty damn
doing.
close.
That is what she's doing. She's doing it in a very, like, very graceful, very political, kind of like
Yeah.
backhanded compliment way.
Yeah, not okay with that at all. Yeah, definitely not okay with that.
So Mithrax has found himself, he's moved his whole house here, this great opportunity that he never thought would happen. But, he's trying to solve this problem. And the entire time he's trying to solve this problem, he's also having some issues with this, semi leadership of the city, just trying to do like basic things, get supplies, make sure his people are fed and have, space to live here, and is constantly butting heads with Lakshmi, and it reaches out to Varric's to try and vent some of these frustrations. So this is in the Lightkin Bond, the Warlock item, and this transmission goes like this. Mithrax Kell knows what time it is on Europa, yes? My apologies, Varric's. No apologies. Own choices, yes? Do better. What is Mithrax Kell seeking? Perspective. I know I am finding myself at odds with an exo, a leader of humanity. She does not trust our kind, and I fear what may come of her intolerance. Trust is earned, yes. This is different, blunt, cold. She does not wish to give trust. There is no transaction, just anger. Varric's knows this. Varric's also remembers Mithrax Kell as a soft-shelled hatchling, always mewling, always wishing to make friends, even with the older dregs who would push him. Mithrax Kell, always trying. Is peace not worth trying for? with those who accept peace in their hearts. Yes, some only know war, only want war. Not all battles can be won with words. Then what? I cannot strike at her. It would confirm all of the humans' worst fears. This is where Misrax Kel and Varix differ, but perhaps also where we are similar. Do you trust any of the humans? Yes, some. With your life. Some. There is Misrax Kel's perspective. Thank you, Varix. Do not thank Varix yet. The day is long, but the night is longer. And that's the end of that one.
All right. That last one was a direct fuck you. that was like, you couldn't be more. Whatever, Varix. But I feel like Varix would stab her. Yeah.
He absolutely would.
Varix would have slit her throat and be like, I win, you lose, suck it. Like that would have been the end of that conversation. Yep. So yeah, I like Varix saying, yeah, this is where we differ, but we're also kind of similar. Like we still want what's best for our people. And maybe the best option is not to just slit a throat in the middle of the night, no matter how long or endless that night is, as I remind you at the end of my transmission.
Right.
Like, come on, Varix. I get it. The sun is out. Like, you don't have to rub it in. I get that. I get that here it's been nighttime for 17 days or however long it's been. I get that there it's probably 2 a.m. because he absolutely woke him up in the middle of the night. But,
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lot of wisdom in that one. A lot of really good wisdom, and again a lot of showing of character on both sides. Like throughout all these correspondence, a lot of showing of character on both Mithrax and Varix.
Yeah, and Varix is doesn't know the situation with Lakshmi in detail, but he's saying trust has to be earned, but not everyone is looking for trust. Not everyone is looking for peace. Some wars can't be fought with words.
Yeah.
And thankfully it never gets to that point with Lakshmi because she is her own undoing. But I mean, what if she had survived? Like what would have happened if we had that kind of scenario? Because
what if Mithrax had slit someone's throat in the middle of the night?
Yeah, what if?
I don't like. I mean, pirate Mithrax, absolutely, but pirate Mithrax probably wouldn't be living under the shadow of the Great Machine in the last city of humanity. Like, lot of what ifs going on here. Like, left turns instead of rights here. But yeah. I think Lakshmi got what she deserved.
I think so too. So at this point in the seasonal story, because the seasonal story is really Vex based as much as it is Eliksni. Like the stuff you're doing in the season is all Vex based. So there really isn't much to describe as far as the Eliksni are concerned with what the Guardian is doing. A lot of this stuff is happening while the Guardian is out attacking the Vex with the help of Mithrax. But the situation in the city, Mithrax is here and he can roam around and talk to some characters that we know and get a perspective from some of the other older Guardians, some of the old guard that have been around since the Dark Ages. And one of those that he ends up having a conversation with, and a very interesting conversation, is Shax.
Okay.
And we see this conversation on the lore card for the hand cannon Survivor's Epitaph. And it goes like this. To be the first Eliksni to bask in the presence of the traveler since the whirlwind was an honor that Mithrax, Kell of House Light, never imagined for himself. And as he stood on the tower walkway below the scar left in the wake of the Almighty, he meditated on the choices in his life that had led to this point. He wondered if there was a unifying thread binding all these events together, but he would have no time to ponder such things. A shadow crept over Mithrax, broad shoulders and a curling horn, seeing the stark outline of Lord Shax looming on the stairs, elicited centuries-old instinct, and it was temperance that kept Mithrax's hand from his weapon. I didn't expect to actually find you here, Shax said as he continued down the stairs with the slow, plodding steps. Were you there? What? Shax came to stand beside Mithrax at the railing. Were you there? He asks again. This time he pointed, without looking, to a place on the horizon beyond the traveler. Mithrax followed Shax's gesture with his eyes. He did not understand. The Battle of Six Fronts, Shax insisted with uncharacteristic softness. Do you know how many fallen I killed there? Mithrax bristled at the question, and he felt that instinctual urge to reach for his weapons again. But the presence of the traveler and the question that nagged at the back of his mind stayed his hands. How many? He asked, not wanting to know the answer. Shax deflated, folded his arms over the railing, and rested his considerable weight against it. Hundreds, he said quietly. All of them died afraid. Mithrax felt ether mixing with bile in the back of his throat. His limbs trembled, rage burned in his gut, demanding manifestation. But he tempered his anger, sighed so deep that the ether on his breath was briefly visible as an iridescent cloud. How many humans have you killed? Shax wondered. Too many, Mithrax answered, and even that felt insufficient on his tongue. The thought of it twisted his insides around. He sighed again, deeper this time, and Shax watched the sublimated ether glitter in the light. When I heard you were in the tower, Shax said, I thought I'd just throw you over the edge of the wall. I thought about the people I watched die at the hands of your houses over the years, the lightless torn limb from limb during the Dark Age. He snorted out a rueful laugh. And then I started to think about them. Silence hung in the air for a moment, long enough for Mithrax to ask, Who? 3 scavengers, huddled together in a collapsed storm drain. They had taken food during a time of famine. Maybe it was for themselves, maybe another settlement, maybe family. Shax shrugged. I killed them all 3, with my bare hands. My victims were humans too, Shax clarified, and the Kell felt his anger twist into confusion. I was a warlord in the Dark Ages, convinced myself of the necessity of my own barbarism by painting it with noble colors. Those loyal to me built a legend that masked the blood and the rot. But it's still there. He tapped his fingers against his breastplate. Deep down. The shadow had become long, stars now visible in the sky, and the traveler was cast in half shadow. There was a ship, Mithrax eventually replied. It may have been soldiers, civilians. I do not know. He looked away from the travelers he spoke. I led a boarding party onto it. We slaughtered any who resisted and rounded up those who survived. Shax turned to look at Mithrax, a wordless question in his faceless mask. We argued what to do with the prisoners. Some suggested we keep them as warning trophies. Others said to barter with them. Mithrax looked away, shoulders sagged. But I was young, impatient. He closed his eyes. I opened the airlock. It seemed the simplest solution. Both soldiers sank into silence again, and remained so as the last glimpse of sunlight descended beyond the horizon. Shax sullenly took his leave, and Mithrax was left with the remnants of anger and confusion, and paradoxically, an answer. He saw then the thread of choices leading to this moment, the choices that led to the great machine and away from a fate like Aramis had suffered. It was something both he and Shax learned to accept in spite of a lifetime of experience telling them otherwise. Mercy. And that's the end of that one.
I think I'm just super emotional tonight because I'm about to cry again. Jesus. Oh, okay. Or maybe I have been crying. I don't know. I had to mute myself for a while. That was a little much. Maybe I'm just super emotional tonight. I don't know. Oh God. I don't have words for this one. Like this is just like God. I have no words for this. I really don't. To think of this as like two old soldiers. I mean, old soldiers.
Yeah.
Having done terrible, terrible things, all in the name of like what they think is right, and to have to live with that for the rest of their lives. That's I don't have words for that. Why is this one so fucking emotional tonight? Jesus. I was not ready for these readings.
If anyone missed this theme while we were doing the last 7 episodes, the Eliksni kind of have it rough.
Oh my God, they do. Jesus.
There's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of everything all twisted up on both sides. And it is nothing short of a minor miracle that the Eliksni are able to live under the traveler in the city.
Yeah.
And this is a moment where Shax and Mithrax are finding kind of common ground. It's one of the, Shax says, I've done terrible things. Like my victims were human too. Yeah, it's not like he's saying I have been as much of a monster as you have.
There's a quote from a movie, and I can't place the movie or the quote correctly, but I'm remembering it as like something about like I count them all. I count them all every night. Like, and it's basically something like this, where it's like an old soldier that's like has killed so many, and he can't like he can't see past their faces anymore. Like he counts them all every night, and so like that's almost what I expected Shax to be like when he pointed out, like, were you there? Like and it was like, you know how many I killed, and to give like an exact number and to be like, I count them all, but it's so many that he can't even calculate it. Like that's yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, is there more like this tonight? I don't know that I can handle much more.
So we're gonna break it up though with one that's on the happier side.
Okay. It better not be too happy, because then I like with the emotional thing that I'm doing right now. This pendulum swinging everywhere, man. I'm so happy for Ido and like it. I can't, Myth. I just can't.
So the next one we're gonna read is a interaction between the Drifter and the new Eliksni neighbors. And during the season, this long night has been going for a while, and Lakshmi has been this entire time really subtly at first trying to rile up the general populace against the Eliksni. They already weren't terribly thrilled with the Eliksni moving in, but now you have Lakshmi, a political leader of Future War Cult, who is, again, at first subtly suggesting that, this is not the place for them. This is not where they belong. We should, they should go find their own home, being very like, it's not that we're racist. They just don't belong here. Essentially, was her messaging.
She and they get way more aggressive as the season goes on.
Oh yes. Yes.
It's Lakshmi bad, yo.
So, needless to say, they have some altercations with the locals here and there, and they have a few unexpected faces that kind of come to the rescue every now and then. So this one is off the Borrowed Time SMG from Gambit, and features the Drifter. And this one goes like this. The Drifter smelled trouble the moment he entered the bar. His first instinct was to turn around and leave, but he noticed the hooded figure standing nervously nearby, conspicuously inconspicuous. Their hooded cloak was pulled low over their face, but they leaned to the side, intent on catching every angry shout from the crowd of locals in the corner. "Tell what's-his-name to take it easy," Drifter grumbled as he walked by. "I'll handle this." "Take it easy," parroted a polite voice from somewhere under the figure's cloak. "I heard him," said the figure, but there was relief in his voice. As Drifter pushed into the crowd, he noted who was armed, who was shouting, and who was doing both. Most seemed to fit into the final category. He smiled. History had taught him the quiet ones were always the most dangerous. He reached the center of the tight knot and found 3 Eliksni sitting at a table, trying to ignore the crowd around them. Undaunted, he pushed his way onto the chair arm of the biggest Eliksni like a feral cat. The Eliksni growled, but Drifter tossed Trust into the center of the table with a heavy thud. Drifter turned towards the crowd. "What's got you fine folk all riled up tonight?" "Take it you don't listen to the radio much," someone said, and the crowd laughed. "Places I like tend to have bad reception," Drifter replied. "Tell me, what'd I miss?" The group all spoke at once, a cacophony of accusations. "Whoa," cried the Drifter. "Seems like some of you have been spending too much time staring at that fake night." He turned to the Eliksni. "Now, somewhere in this commotion, I think I heard shouting of missing equipment, so I gotta ask," he said. "You fellas been taking what don't belong to you?" The big Eliksni spoke. His voice was deep and steady. "We had confusions with your people. Where was self-supply And where was all supply? He shrugged. We learned, and we compensated. Drifter nodded. Makes sense for settling into a new place. Ain't a soul here who hasn't checked their neighbor's tool shed for spare SMG parts. A voice spoke. Hey, I'm missing an SMG, but Drifter held up a hand. And I don't want to hear they caught any blame for the big night. I swear it's like some folks' brains just wilt in the dark. I know Mithrax is working with the Vanguard to figure out this whole Vex thing, he said. The Eliksni seemed to relax a bit, but Drifter held up a finger. I do have one question of my own, he said. We've been fighting for a long time, your folk and mine. That's no secret. Plenty of blood spilled on both sides over the years. But I hear stories some of you fellas from the old days caught the hunger. The big Eliksni shifted tensely in his seat as the crowd pressed in. Drifter leaned in close. Nasty rumor. Even says you guys chomped on the occasional toddler. The Eliksni pushed his chair back and lunged to his feet as the crowd gasped. Drifter stood his ground, somehow staring down the Eliksni that was a full meter taller than him. Never, you're young, the Eliksni boomed. Never. Drifter nodded. But the rest? The Eliksni looked at the crowd, then brought his massive head close to the Drifter, his voice steady. We, old ones. We who have been fighting since the beginning. Yes, we sometimes took your dead fighters so that we could live. It was war, he said, and poked at Drifter's chest with a clawed finger. And you are made of meat. Drifter smiled. I hear you, brother, he said, and looked at the Eliksni's claw. Hell, you point that thing at me, all I can think is how good it'd taste with garlic butter. Mm-hmm. He leaned toward the looming creature and ran his tongue over his lips. The Eliksni sized up the tiny man, then dropped his shoulders. But as I say, that was long ago. We are House Light now, and forevermore. We have peace with your people. Drifter reached up and patted the Eliksni's chest. That's right, he said, and the Eliksni sat down. And though it don't erase the bad old days, he said as he turned to the crowd, that don't mean it's time to bring 'em back, either. A dissatisfied grumble rose from the crowd, but the fight had gone out of them. The Eliksni shrugged. Mithrax says we are never to eat people again, he said quietly. Drifter nodded. Yeah, Zavala tells me the same damn thing. The Eliksni burst into coughing laughter, and the Drifter laughed back, picked up his gun from the table, and waved the crowd away as he pulled over an empty seat. Now make room, he said. These fellas were just about to lose at cards. And that's the end of that one.
Hashtag Drifter for speaker. That's all I'm saying. Drifter knows how to diffuse a situation with, hey, I'm missing some SMG parts too. No. It don't matter. I love that. Tim in the corner is like, hey, I was just missing some last week. Yeah. Eliksni crab heads with butter sauce. So tasty. Garlic and butter sauce. Eliksni crab heads. No, this is. Oh man, it's a good scene. It really is. Like to be able to diffuse that situation the way he did. Like he just has a charisma about him. He definitely rolled a nat 20 for charisma. He had to have.
Drifter's a bard all the way.
That's what I'm saying. Found the bard. Yep.
But the cloaked figure that they're talking about at the beginning, that's just kind of sitting there ready to, really starting to get amped up and ready to jump in if they need to, is none other than Crow, who, as we know, is a a big, fan
Advocator.
of the
Yeah.
Eliksni. Yeah,
Yeah. He found his people.
he did. And although he didn't need to step in this time, there is another time where he does. So as
Are we gonna
the,
get emotional again?
I don't know. This one isn't as bad, I don't think.
Okay.
Um,
I need like a warning before each one of these now. Like the way this night is going, I'm literally on this like I don't know, like I don't know. I need warnings before all these.
this one isn't too bad. So as time has gone on, and the long night has ebbed away at people's frustrations, and they want it to end, and it's making them angry at everything. Minor annoyances are becoming these huge deals, and they've been directed, as we saw in the last one. Have you heard the radio? Like, Lakshmi is making broadcasts starting to implicate the Eliksni as being the reason for this night, even though it started before they arrived. And so people are deciding they need to take things into their own hands and show these Eliksni that they're not welcome here. And that leads us to the scene in the lore card called Sabotage in the Beneath the Endless Night lore book. And it goes like this. 24 humans, their faces mostly covered with makeshift masks, slunk into the Botza district under the cover of darkness. Some were armed with weapons, though most carried workaday tools like crowbars and wrenches. They planned to infiltrate the Eliksni Quarter and find evidence of aggression. If that failed, they would send a clear message that the House of Light was unwelcome in the last city. Knives tore into banners, noxious fumes filled the air, paint cans rattled. The hum of the machinery around them disguised the sounds of their labor, while hushed voices conferred in terse, conspiratorial tones. "I think this is their food," a young woman whispered to her male companion, while warily looking over her shoulder. She didn't see anyone as they crouched by a large ether tank, but she imagined the Eliksni crowded together in a nearby building. Did they even sleep? "Here, give me a hand with this," her companion said, pointing to what he guessed was a control panel. Together they pried the faceplate off, revealing a mess of wiring beneath. They shared a furtive glance and began pulling out wires by the fistful, hands shaky, blood pounding in their ears. A low whistle, like a bird call, fluted through the air. When they looked up, a hunter stood over them only a few paces away, his face shadowed by a cowl. He held his hand cannon at hip level, aimed straight at them. Their co-conspirators, drawn by the sound, gathered in their periphery, mentally calculating their chances. Not a single one liked the odds. Even those who came armed expected to fight Fallen, not a guardian. The hunter called out in a half-whisper, "I don't want any trouble." The woman stood frozen as the young man beside her moved toward the hunter, his jaw set. "No," his companion hissed. "Are you crazy?" She grabbed his arm to haul him back behind the ruined ether tank, but he wrenched it free. The young man stepped forward towards the hunter. "You are on the wrong side of this thing," he started. The hunter pulled back on the hand cannon's hammer with an audible click. "I don't think I am," he replied. Unwilling to test the hunter's mettle, the young man called over his shoulder, "Let's go." The hunter narrowed his eyes, watching as the young man slinked past him and spat at his feet. Something old and terrible rose up inside. It took all his focus to steady his hand. The conspirators peeled away from their hiding places one by one, disappearing off into the dark. Some hissed insults and dispersions at the hunter under their breath, though none dared to look at him. In just a few minutes, the block was deserted, except for the hunter who stood alone in the street, until his ghost compiled over his shoulder. It chirped with concern. You wouldn't really have shot them, right? The hunter hesitated as he holstered his weapon. They needed to know I was serious, Glint. But you weren't, his ghost insisted. Wordlessly, the hunter began making his way through the destruction. Someone would sound the alarm soon. He didn't want to be here when they did. Tell me you weren't serious, his ghost said again. Were you? And that's the end of that one.
Yeah. Good guy, Crow. Somebody's got to stand up for the little guy. He would have shot him. He would have 100% shot him.
I think so.
Crow's gone through so much worse, so much worse when he was first rezzed. He would have shot him.
Yeah, and it just, Crow and Drifter, they're both looking out for the Eliksni on the street level. They're not dealing with the leadership that Mithrax is dealing with. They're dealing with the populace.
I was trying to say it's almost like almost like gang warfare,
ish.
Kinda not fully there yet, right? This is probably the most active we've seen out of humanity living in the city, alongside the Eliksni, and for them to be the aggressors is that's a no. That's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
But then Big Bad Crow, Guardian Hunter, hey, you wanna fuck around and find out? and every single one of them man, this is stupid. And that's what I see happen in like a 90s street gang fight. This is stupid. I'm gonna go home and do some math homework. That's what I.
So but despite these differences, despite the generally there being a very negative connotation around the Eliksni living here in the city, they're really trying their best to integrate as much as they can, and I should say some of them are. Clearly there's going to be Eliksni that are also not terribly thrilled about this, but there are certainly others that are really they want to make this work. And we see one such Eliksni in the Chapter 3 Gifts from the Shore lore card from the Beneath the Endless Night lore book. And this one goes like this. Though the metal crate they were carrying likely weighed more than they did, the two Eliksni gave Saint 14 a wide berth on their way to the Eliksni Quarter. You see how they distrust, Saint grumbled. Amanda Holliday scanned the crate into her datapad. The unexpected shipment of emergency supplies from the Tangled Shore nearly offloaded. Don't be such a sourpuss, she said lightly. Mixing with new folks good for the soul. I mix, objected Saint, but the fallen, they do not enjoy my company, and I feel the same for them. Maybe that's exactly why Ikora picked you for this, Amanda says. Though Saint was fully helmeted, she could swear he rolled his eyes. Two more Eliksni came bearing another crate. One noticed Saint too late and stumbled, dropping the crate. Its security locks popped as it crashed to the ground. A young Eliksni wearing house-light colors and a bright orange and blue Vanguard lanyard scampered over in distress. Saint sighed. It is fine, he said to the Eliksni. Spider probably sends more surplus from old House of Dusk. Knowing you could carry supplies from our enemies is a great joke to him. He dragged the crate out of the walkway with one hand and knelt to repair the locks. As Amanda scanned the damaged crate, the young Eliksni came closer. He eyed Saint warily and then held up a sheaf of paper like a shield. Manifest, he stated haltingly. Thank you, Amanda said with unforced brightness. She tapped her datapad. I've got it digitally. You got it digitally, echoed the Eliksni. He fidgeted for a moment and then proudly held up the badge on his lanyard, which read, Temporary. Amanda smiled. What have you got there? Authorization for unloading of supplies from Tangled Shore. Of supplies sent from Spider, he said. He leaned in slowly, looking carefully at Saint and Amanda. My gentlemen, he added slyly. Amanda snorted so abruptly that Saint fumbled with the lock, crushing it in his hand. Saint looked up. Can you two not be quiet? Come on now, Amanda admonished Saint. I don't hear you practicing your Eliksni, and this fellow's doing his best to bridge the gap. Amanda turned back to the Eliksni. That ain't exactly right, but you speak our language pretty well, she said. Thank you, answered the Eliksni, clearly eager for conversation. Do all humans here serve spider kel? Serve spider, Amanda spat. Spider's nothing but a... And the 5 spirited words that followed were replete with hard consonants. The Eliksni froze, wary of her tone while not understanding her words. Amanda caught herself and took a breath. Which is our way of saying he's a kind and generous individual, she said to the Eliksni, who nodded along with her. This lock has been ruined by distractions, Saint said as he rose to his feet. He removed the lid and looked inside, and then lifted a loose coil of rubbery tubes. Servitor plugs, filters, ether circulators? The Titan made a confused noise. Something wrong? Amanda asked. Not at all, mumbled Saint as he picked up a small golden cylinder trailing braided sapphire cords. This rebreather alone is worth more than my ship. Amanda moved toward Saint and looked for herself. She recognized few necessary survival items. Condensed prefab, ceramic plating, vapor distillers, generator couplings, but amongst the tubes and fillers were otherworldly treasures. A nanomesh sphere filled with thick pink liquid, a chrome conduit splitter with entropic plating, a glimmering opal sparkling in a nest of delicate lavender sponges. The hell is Spider playing at? Amanda said to herself. She called out to the Eliksni. Are they all like this? Yes. Each one is very full of delights from our culture, from our home. We are very thanks. He cocked his head and clicked. Thankful? Amanda nodded. Let me see that manifest, she said, taking the papers from the Eliksni. He nodded and rejoined the other workers. They will still need many of our resources to stay here, Saint said as he carefully resealed the crate. But this will make things easier. I am surprised Spider is so generous, even to his own people. Amanda frowned at the manifest. This doesn't make sense, she said. There's a note at the top. Don't know what half this stuff is, but it's got to be good if Spider had it, she read. It's all written by hand, and there aren't values for anything on here. Saint looked at the papers over Amanda's shoulder. The crates came from Spider's storehouse, he said. If he did not send them, who did? Look at this listing, Amanda continued. This item says best osmosis filters hidden in his bottom drawer. This item is just a row of question marks. Here's one list as a clock thing. This line says noisy cube, smells bad, but everyone likes it. And what's with this signature? Amanda squinted at the shape scrawled at the bottom of the form. It's a Ship? She guessed, handling the paper to Saint. The Titan turned his head as he looked at the drawing. Aha! He cried, slapping the paper with the back of his hand. Look, is bird. Amanda looked again at the uneven charcoal lines and could just make out the wobbly black bird. She let out a long breath and shook her head. Awful artist, she said. But I guess he's an all right guy. And suddenly, she was smiling. And that's the end of that lore card.
You have no idea how many times I laughed during this. Like, this has got to be the God. Man, my first thought was like, "Ooh, Amanda said some bad words," and then it just gets hilarious from there on out. Like, yeah, like thing that smells bad. What? Sparkly coil from hidden drawer. This is just a line of question marks. What the fuck even is this? This is clearly Crow. Crow is clearly stealing from Spider. Like,
yep.
Oh, is bird. Like, who else would recognize a bird but the Saint? Like, and Amanda just like, God, he's such an idiot. Like, his bird. Yeah.
Yeah, and I very intentionally did not attempt a Russian accent because my nose is very plugged and that would not go well.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Yeah, so this is very much...
This is super cute. I like this.
Yeah, this is very much Crow is stealing stuff from Spider. His bottom drawer.
He doesn't even know what the fuck he's stealing. Like, that's the word. That's the crazy. He has no fucking clue what he is looking at or picking up, and just like, huh, that looks expensive. And throws it in a box and is like, oh, lock. Let's go. We're just, hey, it came from Spider. Ha ha ha. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So he's just tossing stuff in a crate. One of Spider's crates, and then shipping it off to the city, and then
digitally altering. I mean, yeah. Crow is being Crow. He's Crow's an all right guy.
Yeah,
God, give him a chance, Amanda.
I'm holding out hope yet.
I am too.
That ship ain't sailed yet.
Not yet.
But then there's this little Eliksni with the temporary badge. Who's very
I was so confused at that too. I'm like, temporary badge. What do you mean temporary badge? Like, what does that even mean? Like,
so it's a Vanguard badge that says temporary. So I think it's saying like temporary member of the Vanguard kind of thing.
Is it like those stickers that the firefighters give to like kids?
Maybe.
Is this Eliksni walking around with this sticker badge? Like, see, it says Vanguard. It says temporary, but it still says Vanguard. That's Vanguard. I'm Vanguard material right here, baby. Like,
well, and he's so proud of it. He's like, he walked up and showed it to Amanda. It's like, look at this.
It off. I'm an honorary Vanguard. It's only temporary, but I'm still there. Yeah. No, this is the most ridiculous, but also like the best. Like, I don't know. This is a good one. This is a good one.
This is a good one. So we have some further adventures with our little Eliksni friend here, and we get to see one of the other stops they make on the Chroma Rush lore card. And they have a bit of fun in a human restaurant, of all places. And that one goes like this. The Eliksni awkwardly shouldered its way onto the empty stool at the ramen shop and rested its 4 elbows on the bar. Maurice looked up over the huge pot of broth and, thinking a Titan in one of their ridiculous helmets had arrived for lunch, called out, "Irashamasi." It wasn't until he absently stepped to the bar that he realized who his customer was. Metal plating covered the creature's forehead and the side of its face. ending in a nuzzle that hissed a stream of bluish mist. A haphazard collision of heavy canvas and metallic weave draped over its shoulders. A vanguard lanyard dangling absurdly from its neck. It was small for an Eliksni, but its angular head still towered above Maurice as it hunched over the bar. 4 blue eyes looked back at him from above a lipless mouth. It opened, revealing rows of thin, sharp teeth. 1 item, ramen soup, the Eliksni croaked stiltedly. Please. Maurice held his breath, tightened his grip on his pencil, and grinned. He grinned when he was nervous, and this seemed like as good a time as any. The Eliksni grinned back, nodded, then opened its horrible mouth again. I smelled it, and the smell was good, it said. Maurice scanned the bar. His other customers sat frozen, their bowls of ramen steaming silently in front of them. He realized his mouth had apparently decided to talk on its own, as if nothing were wrong. He heard himself ask, "How spicy?" 0 to 5 stars. The Eliksni had anticipated this question. Spicy, 5 stars, it said, holding up one hand with 3 claws splayed and another with 2. May I receive additional dead flesh, please? You got it, Maurice said, his even voice betraying none of his tension, and he turned back to the bubbling pot of broth. Muscle memory took over, and he soon found himself placing a steaming bowl of ramen in front of the creature, who clucked cheerfully. Maurice took a half-step back. A small crowd was forming in the walkway in front of the restaurant. Some of the customers leaned in as their curiosity overcame their terror. Maurice noticed the woman in seat 2 needed more water, but it could wait. The Eliksni raised its arms tentatively, then looked to Maurice again. What is the protocol? Maurice found himself unsure of which pair of Eliksni eyes to look into and focus on. Well, you eat the noodles, and pork, and egg with egg, repeated the Eliksni, enjoying the unfamiliar word. Yeah, egg. You eat all that with the chopsticks, and you get the broth with the spoon. Maurice saw how the Eliksni's claws dwarfed the ceramic spoon. Or you can just lift the whole bowl and drink it. Maurice mimed, lifting a bowl to his lips. The Eliksni nodded. Its claws tapped the metal on its face, and the hissing blue mist ceased. The Eliksni held the chopsticks, tested their weight, and respectfully placed them back on the bar, before bringing the bowl to its mouth with its upper arms. Above the ramen bowl, Maurice saw all 4 of the Eliksni's eyes close. A long moment of tension fell over the shop, the silence broken only by the staccato series of hissing slurps. Finally, the Eliksni lowered the empty bowl. It breathed in as the blue mist resumed its thin spray. It looked towards Maurice. I tasted all of it, it said with deep satisfaction. I am very thankful. Maurice's grin turned into a tentative smile. Glad you enjoyed it. The Eliksni stood and held out what looked like a small model of the traveler. It glowed as it floated in the Eliksni's palm. Compensation, it said. Maurice reached to take the treasure, and then drew his hand back. For new customers, there's no charge, he said. No compensation. Thank you for coming in. The Eliksni cocked its head, and then clucked, and the model vanished beneath the folds of its cloak. It smiled at Maurice. You, it said, and then cleared its throat with a rumble. You are a... And the 5 spirited words that followed were replete with hard consonants. And in the confused silence that followed, the Eliksni nodded graciously and then walked through the crowd outside and deeper into the city. And that's the end of that lore card.
Shit. This, oh my god. I wasn't ready for the end of that one. I was not ready at all for that. Like, I knew it was coming. Like, I remember reading this lore card, and I knew it was coming, and it just, like... Shit. Lost in translation, right? Like, that's the...
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
clearly,
I mean,
clearly
Amanda,
there's a translation area.
Amanda told this Eliksni, oh, that's just what we call someone who we think is a kind and generous individual. Clearly being sarcastic, but he doesn't pick up on that.
He doesn't. If they don't, do they even know sarcasm?
Right?
Like, yeah. Oh my god. This poor ramen shop has no clue what the fuck just happened. Literally no clue what the hell just happened. Like, this giant, I mean, Eliksni are big. Like, that's, I don't think that's really well shown off in game. But Eliksni are huge. Like the biggest one we see is Mithrax, and then like there's a few cutscenes, and I think they're from like Season of the Splicer, where like Mithrax is standing next to somebody, and like his upper arms are just at the top of human heads. So it's like they're huge. They are huge. And so this giant thing walks in, and Maurice is just like, another Titan. Wait a second. and muscle memory. I love that. The whole time literally is just muscle memory. Like, he has no idea what is happening, and it's all just muscle memory. And Eliksni's like, that was really good, and calls him a ba 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 ba, and walks out just happy as could be. Marie's just like, what the fuck just happened? What is happening? Am I getting pranked? What the hell is going on here? Yeah.
So
he's so proud of that Vanguard temp
so
badge
proud
too.
Of it. He's wearing it everywhere. He's
everywhere.
So proud of it.
I'm Vanguard. I'm Vanguard. Like, that's absolutely a fucking firefighter badge sticker is what it is. I love it. I freaking love it.
So we've got 2, maybe 3 more readings for tonight. I know it's a longer episode, but we're really wanting to try and finish off the Eliksni stuff, in this episode. And I say 2 or 3 because the third one kind of depends.
Okay.
We can stop here in our adventures of the temporary badge Eliksni, or we can continue with one more card, and we can see how things go for them. But I'm going to warn you now, it is not a nice card.
Oh no.
So,
oh no.
We can leave this one for everyone to decide if they want to investigate on their own, or and for our purposes, this is the end of their story, or we can complete it even though it may not be rainbows and sunshine.
I feel like we have to, because with every God, I'm gonna okay. I'm gonna prep myself. I'm gonna get myself mentally ready for this. Okay. I'm ready. I think in my brain, in my gray matter, up in my skull, I am ready.
All right.
I may not be ready anywhere else, but I am ready. Let's do this, Myth.
Say for anyone that wants to leave this with the happy ramen shop, skip ahead, say 5 minutes.
Hopefully 5.
Hopefully 5. For everyone else that wants to see this story through, this is a reading from the Shattered Cipher lore card, which is the machine gun from Season of the Splicer, and it goes like this. Helena looked suspiciously at the broken windows and the abandoned building and checked her datapad coordinates again. She'd never been to this corner of the city before. Mom, she called doubtfully, hearing her voice echo in the empty space. Back here, answered her mother, and Helena's stomach dropped. She pulled open a rusty door and found her mother in a low concrete room, frantically packing the contents of a long table into duffel bags. Along the far wall, another woman was balling up a plastic tarp. The room smelled like chemicals. A man shouldering a large black bag pushed his way past her in a cloud of cologne, alcohol, and sour sweat. Helena noticed a small signal jammer blinking orange on the table. Behind it, an exo was waist deep at a rebar-lined fracture in the floor. Tight fit, he grunted as he wriggled his way deeper into the gap. But I'm guessing he didn't get far. I'll find him. He vanished into the hole. What's going on? Helena asked. Don't ask questions, her mother said as she shrugged a damp strand of blonde hair out of her face. We need to get moving. She nodded toward the far corner of the room. You take that pile. Helena crossed her arms warily. Mom, what are you doing out here? I don't have time to talk about this right now, her mother snapped. You don't know what's going on. You didn't see them looking through the windows. You didn't hear what this one said in the ramen shop. And for the first time, her mother looked up. Dangerous intensity burned in her eyes. They're using the dark to blind us, and we're not going to let it happen. Now help me. And Helena walked slowly to the trash piled in the corner. Towels soaked with blue fluid, rubbery tubes, strange scraps of metal, and a laminated card that read, temporary. Her voice was small. Mama, what did you do? And that's the end of that card.
Okay. I was
That
not.
one's a rough one.
I was not ready for that. Gray matter said yes. The rest of me said go to hell.
Yeah. It was,
I don't have words for this. This is dark.
It is very dark. And you know,
I mean, it shows the frustration. Well, the frustration has clearly gone past frustration to a boiling point and has boiled over. Like, there are clearly people in the last city at this point in time that are it's indoctrinated is what is the word I want to use in the rhetoric of Lakshmi.
Yes.
These things can't live here. These things can't be. God, it like I'm filled with emotions right now. Like, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm pissed. Like, it's just it's God. This was a hard one.
This one's a rough one, absolutely, and it shows the desperation that people have been driven to by this endless night. It shows the how easy it is to blame a scapegoat for issues that are happening. You know, when someone offers, it's their fault. It's their fault. Blame them.
It's so easy to just accept.
So easy for people to fall into that. You know, I'm not going to linger on it too long. There are lots of real world comparisons you can make.
Oh my
the
God,
obvious
there
ones
are.
We know. But this is, you know, the Destiny universe is a little closer to home in that regard than we may want.
Yeah.
But we're gonna pick things back up. We're gonna be on a happier level with our next card here.
I hope so.
We what do they call that? The compliment sandwich. We did a fun one, a shit one, and now another fun one.
Okay. You ass. Yeah. Okay. All right. I see you.
Yeah. So this one is again with Amanda. with her new assistant, showing that the Eliksni are truly integrating into a couple of different roles here, beyond just their little Botza district. And this is on the Reese Racer Sparrow. And it is a fun one. It is a good one.
Okay.
And it goes like
I
this.
trust you, Myth.
Amanda Holliday sat cross-legged on the floor of the hangar, hands propped on her knees and elbows bent as she leaned forward. Showering sparks rained down on her clothes and bare arms, mutedly reflected in her welding goggles. The prickling sensation of the sparks on her skin was comforting, familiar. So too was the half-finished Sparrow refit her new assistant was working on. But the assistant? That was taking some getting used to. I don't know why this is so surprising, Amanda said as she looked over at the Eliksni vandal working a pair of arc welders held in 4 hands. She laughed to herself, rubbing her cheek as a spark bounced off it. Always wondered how y'all built stuff so fast. The Eliksni engineer, Neek, winked 3 eyes in Amanda's direction before returning her attention to the welding work. Easier to see. No eye shields, Neek explained with a smile. Eliksni eyes quick, better than human, and then quieter. Not as much before home, but... What do you mean? Amanda wondered. Neek stopped welding, setting her tools down, and reclined back with 2 hands on the concrete floor and folded 2 in her lap. She looked up at the ceiling and sighed a faint ether mist. Story lives greater than now true selves, Neek explained, then looked sidelong at Amanda. We all lost purpose after... Neek carefully considered the proper human words. After our golden age. It was Amanda's turn to sigh, more so in regret than Neek's sigh of patience. You ever ridden a sparrow before? She asked in an attempt to change the tone of the conversation. She hadn't considered the question before asking it. Neek shook her head and focused her attention on the half-finished machine in front of her. Too small, she said with a shrug of her upper shoulders. Pike's stronger, but quick run. Amanda couldn't help but laugh at that. Darling, she said through the laughter, ain't no pike faster than my sparrow. Neek's eyes lit up, and she sat forward at the perceived challenge. Amanda remembered the last radio conversation she had had with Crow, an Eliksni phrase he used, a friendly challenge. Her pronunciation was not quite right, but the intention was, and Neek was delighted at the interaction. Your boasts are hollow hull, Neek said with a growl of laughter and clambered up onto one knee. Amanda's eyes widened for just a moment when it looked like Neek might pounce on her, as if she had somehow said the wrong phrase or challenged the vandal to a duel. No weapons were drawn, however. Instead, Neek offered 2 hands to help Amanda up from the floor, and she was pulled up with ease. Are we gonna race? She asked with a nervous flutter of laughter and crooked smile. Neek nodded enthusiastically. Yes, race. And that's the end of that card.
Let's go. Yeah, that was a good one. I like that. Just two engineers, like that like yeah. Common ground, right? Like that's always the easiest way to broker friendship is common ground. And
yeah.
And I love that it's Amanda that issues the challenge. Like, you want to go? Let's go. Like this little vandal, I think is what the Eliksni was.
Yep.
Is like, I got a big blown V8. What you got? And Amanda's like, yeah, but my little ricer it'll run circles around your V8. Let's go. Let's take this to the racetrack. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the
too small. Get that shit out of here, bro.
No, and I love the image of Amanda sitting there with the welding shield and the single welder, and then looks over and there's Eliksni, no face mask,
Blazing.
2 welders,
Blazing through these welds.
one in each hand, one in each of their 4 arms, just blazing through shit.
Blazing through. She's like, well, shit, no wonder y'all are really mechanically inclined. You have 4 arms. Like, you can work 4 times. You can work twice as fast as I can. And you're way better coordinated because you can do each one individually. Like, this is not fair. Yeah. No, I like this. I like this one.
Yeah. So, that's the purpose of these readings was to kind of give a glimpse of what life was like for the Eliksni during Season of the Splicer. Because, like I said before, the stuff our Guardian was doing don't really interact with the Eliksni much outside of Mithrax.
It's just us running Vex Network stuff.
Right.
Playing the Matrix, chasing down Qoria.
So this is truly kind of a view into some of their struggles, and some of their interactions, both good and bad, and kind of shows where they started with us and how they've ended up where they are in game now.
Yeah, very much in a better place now than.
Yes. Yeah.
God, I can't even.
Yeah.
Nope.
But
can't do it.
As as the season progresses, we eventually find Qoria. We put a stop to her. However, not before Lakshmi is able to enact her final plan of building a Vex gate in the Eliksni Quarter.
She's the second person to build a Vex gate in the city. Ikora was the first one, and she literally built it on the tower and was like, all right,
Yes.
We're going to go take on the Undying Mind in 1,000 million billion trillion realities and kill every single one of them. So that way the Undying Mind is we putting into it. First off, no, that's not a bright idea, Ikora. Second off, who hurt you? And now Lakshmi. Like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm gonna. Now, granted, Lakshmi is definitely doing this out of like malice. Like, she's absolutely building this to like, yeah, well, the Vex aren't good. They'll come and kill all the Eliksni. Suck it, Eliksni.
Yeah.
Turns out they won't just kill Eliksni. They'll kill everything.
Her intention is start up this Vex gate and just literally just shove all the Eliksni through the gate and then close it behind them. And if they survive, great. But they're not our problem either way anymore. Is Lakshmi's
fucked up
thought process.
Like, I don't think people realize how fucked up Lakshmi is by the end of this season. Like,
I know.
It's so bad. And
So she is successful in getting the Vex gate there, starts it, and lo and behold, there are Vex on the other side.
Weird.
Right. That are charging through the gate and beginning their assault on the city.
It's almost like they know how their own network works. Weird.
Who would have thought?
And when a new Ethernet port is plugged in, they're like, oh, who is this guy? Let's go check him out. Let's do a router test. Oh, hey, what's up? We're in the last city. This is perfect.
We know how to trace route, bitch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what the hell?
So, needless to say, this is Lakshmi's undoing. She is one of the first to fall to the Vex that come through the gate. And now there's Vex in the Eliksni Quarter, and the Eliksni are having to try and flee and defend themselves. And, it's looking bad. And Vex are kind of closing in. And throughout this season, Mithrax has had dealings with Saint. And Mithrax has a very, I would say, infamous scene where he explains, where Saint says something along the lines of like, how can we expect people, humans, to live with these monsters, to live with the things of their nightmares? And Mithrax tells a story about the Eliksni kind of boogeyman called the Saint. And it was a story that stems from Saint 14's crusades against the Eliksni after the Battle of, I believe it was Six Fronts.
I can't
or
remember
perhaps
which battle
Twilight
it
Gap.
was. It was one of the two.
Where Saint decides to take the fight to the Eliksni instead of playing defense.
Yeah.
And brutally wiped out hundreds, if not thousands, of Eliksni solo. And
Solo flawless, baby. Come back with his little temp badge. Solo flawless. What's up? Flex this.
And the Eliksni, he became such a prominent figure during this time that he literally became the Eliksni boogeyman. Like they told stories about the Saint and how he would, drag you off to his domed prison and none would return from it.
Speaking of the Ward of Dawn, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which to us is a symbol of protection, but to them became a symbol of death, essentially.
Yeah. Shit got real there.
Yeah. And really puts into light for Saint that, the line is something along the lines of, how do we expect people to live with their monsters, the same way that we are living with ours? And it was a moment to kind of put the mirror on humanity as like, they've been victims to the fallen, but that doesn't mean that the fallen haven't been victims to them too, as we saw in some of our previous lore cards tonight. And that really drove Saint to reconsider. And by the end of the season, he and Mithrax have formed a friendship to the point where Saint is standing with him, defending the Eliksni Quarter against the onslaught of Vex.
It's so good. So good. Where is Mithrax? I cannot find him. Oh my god. It's such a good series of events there.
It really is a good one. And, Saint standing with him saying, I am defending my people. You are my people too.
Because Mithrax looks over at him and is like, why aren't you defending my people? And he just, shit, I'm going to cry as I say it. You are my people. It's just fucking oh my God, Saint, you're so awesome. I love you. Yeah, no, it's a good scene. Amanda's there, shotgun in hand, just kicking Vex in the teeth like it's nothing. The one human, what are you even doing here, Amanda? What are you? Ikora shows up and Nova bombs, and then instantly, freaking Nova warps. I'm like, all right, you hacks, person, you.
There's a reason she's banned from the Crucible.
That's what I'm saying. You can't do that. If they catch you, you will get banned. They caught her. She is banned.
So, all of this culminates in the successful defense of the Eliksni Quarter, the closing of the Vex Gate, and kind of the ending of the long night, and a middle ground being found between the Eliksni and the last city. Tentative though it is, and fragile, but still a beginnings of a true alliance.
Yeah.
And that essentially leads us right into Season of Plunder, which we all just played. And really, there isn't much to go over there. Season of Plunder was a lot of backstory about the Eliksni that we've already discussed in our previous episodes.
Learned all about Aramis and the pirate ways, and
and then us building up the the Eliksni Quarter at the end to try and give them a questionably better place to live by the end of it.
I was going to say, albeit at spiders undercutting ways. 21 billion or 2, I don't remember how many.
It was ridiculous number is what it was.
Yeah.
But so,
they got some stairs.
Spider probably has an offshore account somewhere.
He's got
just
to.
put it that way.
He's definitely skimming.
But so that brings us to current day and is where we're going to conclude our history of the Eliksni.
We did it, Myth! Another history of a race of destiny down. All we have left is the Vex.
All we have left is the Vex, yeah.
That's it.
This was a very long episode, so
Yes.
Apologies for that.
Thank you for sticking around to the end. Yeah, this one. If you want to stop working for a hot second, here you go. That's it.
Yep.
Not that I'm condoning that, but you know.
No, of course not. So with that in mind, I'm going to buzz through some of our outro here. We do have a shout out tonight. It's coming to us via Twitter from a Nitro TJ who says, "Thank you guys for the reading you guys give us. Thank you for the readings you guys give us. I love how you guys go about discussing the lore in different situations. Have you ever thought about making a Discord for us listeners to come in and talk about lore and make new friendships and play together?" So
that is a very hard question at the end.
Yes, it is. Thank you, first of all.
Absolutely.
And I responded via Twitter to this, but just to put it out there in general, we love the idea of a social space where people can talk, that are part of our community, which is still weird to say, and can talk to each other and play together. The problem is that neither of us are terribly knowledgeable in using Discord in a professional manner.
Yeah.
I have used it as a chat system, like a messaging board and like instant messaging essentially. And that's it.
I mean, that's how Myth and I are communicating right now is through Discord.
Right. So we don't really know what we're doing. And
that's kind of an understatement.
Yes. And to properly moderate something like that is going to require a decent amount of time and energy. And we don't want to put ourselves in the situation where we are doing something that is going to burn us out.
Yeah. We love doing these lore readings once a week. Like, I truly look forward to this every week of like, hey, we're going to sit down and we're going to discuss a bunch of stuff. And then it's kind of like a shelf. Like, I pulled it off the shelf. We got to play with it for a couple hours. Now it goes back up on the shelf, and we play with it next week. That's the way I obviously Myth and I both have a passion for the lore. Otherwise, we wouldn't have even started doing this. But I mean, the fact that we've been going for a year and a half now, all the way back to our PSN days. No, this is a fun thing, and we want to keep it a fun thing. Like, we don't want our content to suffer because we're getting burned out on it or anything like that. So that's probably the bigger, I don't want to say issue, but that's probably the bigger thing, is not to have the burnout.
At the end of the day, this is not our job. There are lots of really awesome content creators that have turned their YouTube or whatever it may be into a full-time thing. That is not the case for us. We do not monetize this in any way whatsoever.
Nope.
And neither of us want this to be our job.
Yeah.
This is a fun thing that lets us interact with some awesome members of the community and put out some information that is hopefully entertaining and
knowledgeable. Maybe you learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I do. Doing research and reading through stuff.
Maybe you don't shoot Eliksni anymore. Maybe you don't shoot Screebs anymore. That's now my problem in every raid. Guess who's not invited to Vow? This guy.
So, needless to say, really, really, thank you for your kind words. We are, I don't want to, it's not that I don't want people to be able to connect with each other and play and make friends that way. It's just that it requires a lot more from us than what we are able and willing to sacrifice at the moment. So.
Yeah, definitely not our goal right now, but maybe someday.
Maybe
We'll see.
someday.
We'll see how this crazy world shakes out. I mean, we crushed our listener goal for the year. Our listener goal for the year was 50,000 listens. Last time I checked, which was yesterday, we're at 69,000. Hot. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, our original listener goal was like 10,000, and then I don't know what happened.
Crushed
but
that
something.
in a freaking month. Was like, okay, well, 10K a month. I guess this is just happening now.
Yep.
So yeah, we are very, very thankful though for every single one of our listeners. And then just a quick thing for me as far as like scheduling, we do have one more episode for the year, which we will be recording next week, and then that will be our final episode for 2022, as we will be taking our Christmas break to enjoy life, to sit back and relax before we hit it up again 2023. So yeah, one more episode after this for the year, and yeah, I think we're Myth. Are we next week? Are we doing a current season kind of like, hey, what's going on here?
Yep. Our plan is that the next episode is going to be about just kind of thoughts and interesting lore bits from the newest season that just launched, as well as the dungeon that launched literally today that I have not played yet.
Same.
And we'll go over all of the relevant bits there and kind of cap the year off with a season overview, and then likely 2023 is going to be us getting into another big series following Bray, Clovis Bray, Rasputin, Siva, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna thank Temp Badge Guy tonight.
He deserves it.
He fucking deserves it. Thank you, Temp Badge Guy. You wear that well, before we read that final card, you wear that badge with pride, and you enjoy your ramen, and you spit those 5 words everywhere you go with hard consonants, and you say I'm proud. Well, anything else, Smith?
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, like I said, thank you for sticking with us through this very, very much longer episode. We're very happy that you guys keep listening every week, and yeah, from all of us lore nerds to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next week.